Front.
Thank everyone for their patience. I think we're all in order now and we're ready to proceed. Ladies and gentlemen, please join with me in a minute of silence to remember the fallen, the prisoners of war, the missing in action, and to honor those who have served and those currently serving the armed services of this great nation. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand as you can while we post the colors and remain standing for the national anthem sung by the Fayetteville High School a cappella choir. Color guard, post the colors.
Squad. Wreath in. Arms. Shoulder, arms.
Thank you very much. That was outstanding. Out of sight and out of mind, I think unfortunately describes the staff of this and most national cemeteries. Many of us see what Tom's staff does here on a daily basis as mundane, routine, and in some ways not very important. and I would not be one of those individuals. But that couldn't be farther from the truth. Every day, each day, they are the sentinels and guardians of our nation's heroes. They care for and watch over them and the grounds they reside in as if they were guarding our nation's capital. And in doing so, present to the world one of our nation's noblest characteristics in how we care for and remember our defenders. Calvin Coolidge once said, "The nation that forgets its defenders will itself at some point be forgotten." Thomas Ruck is the new cemetery director here at Fayetteville National Cemetery, and literally wrote the book on national cemeteries. And that book, for anybody who wants to know, is called Sacred Ground, a tribute to America's veterans. Tom, I'd like to thank you for your team and for always remembering what is important. And I'd like you to come up and say a few words, please.
Thank you, Major Meyer, for those beautiful words. And I can tell you that the staff, and me here for a little while, but the staff has been here forever, and it seems, and they do a beautiful job day in and day out. When I was told 6 weeks ago I was coming to Fayetteville National Cemetery from Riverside National Cemetery in California, and let me just say this about Riverside. Last year we had 200 people there, and it was 45 degrees, and we do 200 burials a week. We do about 12 here a week. It's 60 degrees, and we have 2,000 people here today. Thank you, Northwest Arkansas. But on behalf of the Department of Veteran Affairs, the National Cemetery Administration, and in particular, Fayetteville National Cemetery, your cemetery, I'd like to welcome you here today for this unbelievable gathering of the spirit of America. I think Norman Rockwell, if he was still alive today, could paint this and call this America. He really could. The first speech I gave here, and ever since then, in 6 weeks you sort of get to learn the community. And all I know is this, that in the area of Northwest Arkansas, a handshake is meant. When they say God bless America, it has feeling. And when the Star Spangled Banner is sung, it's loud as it can be. Northwest Arkansas, thank you. And welcome to your Fayetteville National Cemetery. Thank you.
Wreath Across America is growing each year, as evidenced by this unprecedented crowd we have here today, which again, I must echo, is outstanding. You guys are great. Patrick Simmons and I got this rolling with Walmart's participation full tilt in 2008, and it hasn't stopped. And one thing Patrick has started to do in the recent past is to help bring on other corporate partners, because that's important. That's how we continue to grow, and that's how we get more people, this being front and center with them. And this is an absolutely huge logistical event. If you're part of it today, outstanding job. I appreciate all the hard work in getting the wreaths here, getting them staged, and just being patient with all the extra moving parts going around right here. You guys did outstanding. This year I'm extremely excited to announce that the Chief Operations Officer of J.B. Hunt Transport, Mr. Craig Harper, is here. Craig joined J.B. Hunt in 1992 and served in several executive roles until 1997 when Mr. Harper was promoted to the current position as Chief Operating Officer and Executive Vice President in Operations. Craig is a graduate of University of Arkansas with a Bachelor of Arts in Chemistry. He continued his education at the University of Tennessee, where he earned his Doctor of Dental Surgery degree. I've been trying to get my head wrapped around that one yet, J.B. Hunt and Dental Surgery, but hey, I guess it works. Today, Craig would like to make a special announcement regarding J.B. Hunt's involvement with Wreath Across America. Mr. Harper, please come forward.
It's an honor to be here today. We appreciate Walmart bringing us into this, and it's been an unbelievable event. You know, it's a memorable and emotional day. You know, we got blue skies, beautiful sunshine, and great weather. It's when you look across these rolling hills and you see the marble tombstones that it causes us to reflect and remember our veterans. Veterans that paid a heavy price. Some gave the greatest price of all, their life, so that we could do whatever we choose to do today. We have total freedom. You know, this started with us with a load in Maine. And we took that load of wreaths from Maine to Windsor Locke, Connecticut, to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. We went from there to Columbus, to Louisville, Kentucky, to Nashville, Tennessee, to Memphis, and then we found the resting place here. All along that way, we had employees come out, office folks, shop, our drivers. We had veterans show up at each location. We had Gold Star dads, Gold Star moms. And one of those Gold Star dads is a driver with J.B. Hunt, Michael Stansberry. Michael and his wife, Tammy, have allowed us to share the story of their son, Mike Stansberry. Mike was 21 years old. He was like all 21-year-olds. He loved cars. He liked sports. He liked to play video games. He had a girlfriend. He was close to his parents. Loved his sister dearly. And he wanted to go serve. And he enlisted into the Army, and he was serving in Afghanistan when he was killed in 2010. And the Stansberry, they want us to share Michael's story to go along with the mantra of Wreaths across America, to remember those who have served, to honor those who have served, and to continue teaching what it means to have the freedom that we all have. Also, if Mike the dad was here, he would remind you that there's a story underneath every one of those stones. Every one of those represents somebody's father, son, grandfather, grandmother, husband. And as you lay that wreath today and honor that individual and those families, remember them and make a commitment to continue to teach our kids and our grandkids what it means to be free and the price that comes along with it. God bless our veterans, and God bless America.
Thank you, Craig. As you can see, even the younger ones give it their all. We got him taken care of. He'll be fine. That's why I always say, don't lock your knees up, guys. This year marks the anniversary of several events in history that relate directly to the Wreaths Across America. And that first mission that it relates to is to remember the fallen. It is the 150th anniversary of the Civil War, and more specifically the creation of Arlington Cemetery in 1864. And hence you see the gentleman behind me who are representing that. You also see representations here in the front of several other anniversaries, unfortunately. It's the 100th anniversary of World War I, and also the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War. I hope most of you notice these individuals in the period uniforms, and hopefully they'll come up or you'll come up to them and ask them questions and learn a little bit more about why they're here and what they do in those uniforms. But today, the individual I can thank for them being here is Ranger Troy Vanzoff of the National Park Service and Pea Ridge National Battlefield. Troy would like just a few minutes of your time today to tell you a little bit about Pea Ridge National Battlefield and the cemetery that's there and kind of how it fits in with Wreaths Across America. Troy?
Good morning. Thank you very much. It's really awe-inspiring to see this many people come out and volunteer their time on a Saturday for such a worthwhile event. Pea Ridge is extremely pleased to be able to participate this year, since the history of the Fayetteville National Cemetery and the Battle of Pea Ridge are so entwined with one another. We read about the Civil War, read about the famous battles we see, and I read about in our history books of Gettysburg, Antietam, Chickamauga, those battles that most people are familiar with. It's amazing how many folks that live here in Northwest Arkansas do not realize that we had two large battles here in our own counties. The Battle of Pea Ridge, March 7th and 8th of 1862, and then December 7th of 1862, you had another large battle over here in Prairie Grove. The Battle of Pea Ridge was the culmination of a campaign that began early part of the year of 1862. And what it was is an effort to try to maintain physical and political control of the state of Missouri for the United States government. So for 2 days, we had over 26,000 men from Iowa, Illinois, Ohio, Indiana, Missouri, and primarily Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas, and also Missourians that fought one another in the farm fields here in Northwest Arkansas. When it was all said and done, the Union victory was able to keep the federal government in control of the state of Missouri and pave the way for the Union campaigns that would further move down the Mississippi River and eventually cut the Confederacy in two. Once the battle was over, however, the Union Army was left with the unenviable task of being able to having to bury these soldiers that lay on the battlefield. And it was new to most of these soldiers. Of course, you'd have to realize that most Americans didn't believe that the slaughter would be that great in the American Civil War. And with every battle, with every report of the casualties of battles, the citizens of the country were getting more and more appalled as these numbers ever increased. When the Battle of Pea Ridge was over, the Federals were victorious and maintained the control of the battlefield, and they had the task of burying the Union and Confederate dead both. The Union soldiers and Confederates were all buried in mass graves. As time allowed, the soldiers did not have the time to be able to dig individual graves for the soldiers. So teams of comrades would go out and gather the dead and bury them in mass pits. If the soldiers were lucky, if the dead were lucky, they had a comrade who was able to identify them and put some sort of scrap of clothing or some mark of identification so that in the future, if someone were to dig those soldiers up, they'd be able to be identified. And there those bodies laid until after the end of the Civil War. And then in 1867, when the cemetery was established here, the United States government actually hired a contractor who went to the battlefields, both Pea Ridge and Prairie Grove. The contractor went to the battlefield and disinterred all the Union dead that were buried in the mass graves, provided them with a coffin, and then transported those bodies down here to the new Fayetteville National Cemetery. As you can imagine, it took several weeks for that task to be accomplished. But that's how the Battle of Pea Ridge and the National Cemetery, the histories are mingled with one another, because the first 7 soldiers, of course, that were buried here were Civil War soldiers. 3 of those were officers from the state of Iowa. These are young men who never did get to go home, back to their farms, back to their families. 3 of those first burials here in the cemetery were actually soldiers from the Battle of Pea Ridge. So again, the staff of Pea Ridge are living historians who came down here today. We are honored to be able to participate in this event and show our respect for the men and women who have served this great country of ours. Thank you.
Thank you, Troy, very much. Theodore Roosevelt said, "A man who is good enough to shed his blood for the country is good enough to be given a square deal." And as we draw down our forces and our war fighters come home, it is important to remember those that came home earlier, whether it were World War II or Iraq and Afghanistan. Some bearing the unmistakable scars and maladies from the service to their country. Some with not so visible scars, but scarred nonetheless. And still some, though not wounded in combat, bear the wear and weathering of years of toil, strain, stress, and all the other accoutrements that a military career comes with. These individuals are owed a debt of gratitude and should be honored as the heroes they are. Some got their victory parade or homecoming, others didn't. Excuse me. But they are. Some, I apologize. Today and every day going forward, we should acknowledge their service, and that is their homecoming. That is their parade. We offer them that for their sacrifice, their selflessness, but as a courtesy bestowed by this grateful nation. I thank all of our wounded and disabled veterans for making the trip today, both here to be honored and to honor. They face each day, and they have their own little victories each day, both big and small, but they always continue to achieve, and I appreciate that, and I thank you. We are gathered here today at this memorial site and memorial sites all across America to remember that we are one nation under one flag. We are all proud to be Americans that live in a free society made up of many people, many races, and from many walks of life. The freedoms we enjoy today have not come without a price. Lying before us and in cemeteries throughout this country and abroad are men and women who gave their lives so that we can live in freedom and without fear. We can worship as we see fit. We can raise our children to believe as we do. We can travel from one end of this great nation to the other without having to ask. We are free to vote for whomever we feel should be in the government office, and we answer to no one but our own feelings. We have the right to succeed, and we have the right to fail in whatever endeavor we wish to. The United States of America was founded on the ideals of freedom, justice, and equality. Our nation stands as a shining beacon of liberty and freedom to the world. We thank those who gave their lives to keep us free, and we shall not forget them. We shall always remember. Today, many of you here are veterans of wars and conflicts that America has had to fight to protect that freedom and to protect the innocent and oppressed. America has always been the first nation to stand up for the freedom of people from around the world. Many of you here today have answered that call and served your country nobly. We are here today to say thank you, and we are honored to know you. There are many men and women serving today in all branches of this military, here at home and in places far away, some places you never knew about. And they are part of the best trained, best equipped force in the world. We honor them and their families for the sacrifices they make each and every day to keep our country safe from terrorism, hatred, and injustice, those things that plague this world. When you see a veteran or an active duty member, take the time to say thank you. It's a very small thing to do. We owe them our lives, and that short moment of time is well worth that. Quoting the 40th President of the United States, Ronald Reagan, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in our bloodstream. It was fought for, protected, and handed on to them to do the same. If not, one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was once like in the United States when men were free. Today we show a united front of national unity all across the United States of America as we remember the fallen, honor those who serve, and teach our children the value of freedom and a true price of freedom. Now, First Sergeant Collins will lay a remembrance wreath in memory of Private First Class Clarence Burrell Craft, Medal of Honor winner, World War II, and James Allen Swearingen II, and all those who served and are serving in the United States Army.
Present arms.
Now, Private Greg Suviaz will lay a remembrance wreath in memory of Michael R. Braswell and Corporal Chad S. Wade, and all those who served and are serving in the United States Marine Corps.